StudyIQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Hello, namaskar, namaskara, namaskaram, namaskar. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class, The Daily Current Affairs. The Daily Current Affairs are a boon for those students who are going to appear for UPSC 2024. It is not only important that you watch this class on a daily basis from the perspective of prelims, but also from the perspective of mains. And do not worry about making notes because I provide the PDF that I'm using to teach here through my Telegram channel that is by the name of Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, you can also talk to me on my Instagram. So these are the various events we have to cover today. Last time I asked you a question. This was a previous question of the UPSC only. Which of the following best describes the term import cover sometimes seen in the news? So many of you have answered it correctly because it is important for you to understand what kind of questions are asked in the UPSC prelims examination. Then only you will be able to solve the later on questions. Okay, import cover is actually a measure of those number of months for which I have the sufficient amount of foreign exchange with myself so that I can import certain commodities. That means if I want to import oil, supposedly, for the upcoming 3 months, I am very well aware that I have that amount of foreign exchange with myself. So this measure of amount of months is actually the import cover. Option D will be the correct answer. And those of you who have answered it correctly, I will take your names by the end of this class. So as you can see, this is a conceptual question. If your concepts are clear, you do not need to mug up anything. Later on, questions that are relevant with respect to concept and fact and knowledge, all these are also mixed. So UPSC is a happy blend of those. All right. Those students who have missed the opportunity to enroll themselves in the P2I batches of the earlier months that we have been launching, and it is a huge success. The thing is that you can still do it for the upcoming batch, that is from 11th of September. We are launching another batch. This will be a morning batch, 8 a.m. onwards, and these will be live classes. That means you will be able to interact with the teachers. Live classes plus study material plus prelims test series, mains test series. CSAT is also covered in the P2I batch. Other than this, you will have your essay classes. You will also get a lot of information and help with respect to psychological counseling because this is an arduous examination. We have mentors for that as well. You will also get access to a study campus program in which if you qualify UPSC 2024, you will be called to the StudyIQ campus where you will prepare for the mains examination for a rigorous 4-month period. There we will teach you what actually you need to do for your mains examination. The mains enrichment program will also be provided. Thereafter, you will be promised at least 2 mock interviews, and thereafter you will, of course, be done with this examination in a positive manner. You will come out with flying colors if you follow the strategy that StudyIQ gives you. Okay, so we have 3 batches: English completely in English, Hindi completely in Hindi, and there is a English batch. So if you use the code PDLive, all this can be made available to you at 29,999 only. Make sure you use the code PDLive for any other batch that you are holding on to. I've already given you a brief explanation of this, so let's move forward to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to El Nino year. That means an year which is observing El Nino, like 2023 is observing El Nino. It causes intense flooding across eastern sections of Africa. Fewer hurricanes form in the Atlantic Ocean. El Nino is associated with weak monsoon and lower than average rainfall in India. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? This is a concept question. Fact and concept both I can call it, and also an observance question. If you observe for this year hasn't registered a lot of rainfall. Specifically, the amount of rainfall India generally receives in a normal year, India hasn't done it. So yes, El Nino year is associated with weak monsoon and lower than average rainfall, and that has caused August to be one of the driest years since the last 122 years. This August has been the driest year. Generally, August is the second rainiest year in India after July, but we haven't registered a lot of rainfall in the month of August. It causes intense flooding across East Africa. That is definitely correct. El Nino causes a lot of pressure on the atmospheric circulation, as in everything changes, jet stream changes. Basically, the interaction between the ocean and the atmosphere makes the entire process El Nino Southern Oscillation. And when the atmosphere, when it is interacting with the ocean, changes everything, of course, it will be an year of abnormalities. And the eastern section of Africa are flooded, causing dengue, malaria, landslides, and whatnot. But the northern African region and southern African region, they are dry. So, first statement is correct. Yes, as we are also witnessing a lot of hurricanes being formed in the Pacific Ocean because of the intense warming of the Pacific Ocean. If we talk about the Eastern Pacific Ocean, a lot of hurricanes are forming in the Pacific region. Right now, also, many areas are observing typhoons, hurricanes. So, second, because of the formation of cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons in the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, on the other hand, observes formation of lesser typhoons or fewer hurricanes form in the Atlantic Ocean. Second is also correct. And as I have already told you about the third is correct. First is correct, second is correct, third is correct. How many are not correct? None are not correct because all of them are correct. I have already told you about this August being the dry since 1901. The country recorded 162.7 mm of rainfall in August, which is just which is a deficit of 36% for the month. August is generally it is the second rainiest month after July. But what has happened that in July we got a little better amount of rainfall than we registered in August. That is why we are not witnessing a very difficult situation. If July was such, then God would have taken care of us because the government wouldn't have been able to. Now, if we talk about this particular diagram, it is going to show us that what is El Nino. El Nino got discovered in the 1920s only. The thing is that we do not know as of yet what causes it. We do not know. But generally, it occurs in the time range of 2 to 7 years. That means it sets itself in this particular range. When it is going to come back after 2023, it could be either after 2 years or either between the range of 2 to 7 years. But climate change is happening at such an accelerated rate that the scientists believe it could happen even at a large, at a shorter interval, like 2 to 4 years, 2 to 5 years, like that. So El Nino years are generally warmer, whereas La Nina, generally it is a cooler year, and La Nina got established or got discovered later in the 1980s only. So what causes it, we do not know as of yet, but it is a phenomenon that was observed by the fishermen of Western South America when they saw that this region of the ocean, it doesn't have any fish. Why doesn't it have any fish? Oh, maybe because of the warming of waters. When warming of waters occur, then there is lesser plankton for the fish to eat. If the fish cannot eat plankton, they will die. So fishermen thought that what is this? This is happening at the time of Christmas. This is a boy Christ, child Christ, they called it. So this became El Nino. And El Nino is the warming of the Eastern Pacific waters. Eastern Pacific waters at the coast of South America. Specifically, if we talk about the western part of South America. In a normal year, the waters are cool, and when that happens, the westward blowing winds, actually when they carry the warmer water to the east coast of Australia, the cooler water from below starts upwelling, and it carries with itself lots of nutrients and planktons for the fish to eat. So fisheries and livelihood with respect to fisheries also thrive. And here what happens, a lot of pressure is not created because of this. So now what happens that El Nino is generally known as a phenomenon which entails itself with the warming of the Eastern Pacific waters. It creates a lot of pressure in the atmosphere, low pressure will happen, and this will be a continuous chain. When warmer air starts going up, it will create a cycle of continuous rainfall, and that creates rainfall in this region but not in regions near Australia and Indonesia. That creates a drought like condition. So this is, we can call it El Nino. I have also explained it thoroughly in one of my classes on StudyIQ IAS English. You can go there and watch it over there as well. So El Nino occurs every 2 to 7 years in varying intensity. Sometimes it could be very intense, sometimes it could be lesser intense. The waters of the Eastern Pacific, they can be up to 4 degrees Celsius warmer than usual, and it causes flooding in eastern sections of Africa. Northern and southern parts are drier, and they also experience drought-like conditions. A strong El Nino also influences the cyclone seasons along the planet. The warmer the Pacific is, the more hurricanes we are going to witness, while fewer hurricanes form in the Atlantic Ocean because of increased upper level winds. They prevent them from developing. It also impacts the jet stream. Now, when the ocean interacts with the atmosphere, as you can see here, El Nino is creating a lot of issues, not only in the Pacific, but in the Atlantic, in the Indian Ocean, and everywhere else, as you can see. So, when the atmosphere and the ocean both starts interacting with one another, the entire cycle of weather system changes. So that is why it is important for us to know El Nino Southern Oscillation is an interaction of the ocean and the atmospheric condition. The Southern Oscillation part is a specific atmospheric condition that sees the difference in sea level and air pressure, and that happens in the western and eastern side of the Pacific Ocean. Western side has a different sort of pressure, and eastern side has a different sort of pressure, and this happens due to the strength and direction of the winds as well. The winds also get impacted by it. Now, El Nino is known to suppress monsoon rainfall. Between the years 2001 to 2020, country witnessed 7 El Nino years, out of which the most severe drought year was 2009-2010. Alright, moving on. Consider the following. India is the largest producer of millets. Karnataka is the largest millet producing state in India. India is the largest exporter of millets. So what do we have to see? How many of the statements given above is or are not correct? Why do I put not correct all the time? Because it is important to check pressure as well. Sometimes it can happen that during the entire process of reading these statements, we forget about not correct or correct. So UPSC will create a lot of pressure like this only. You have to be updated about it. So India is the largest producer of millets. Let's talk about this. The correct answer will be, of course, first is the correct statement. It is the largest producer of millets in the world. But it is the second largest exporter. Can you tell me in the comment segment which country is the largest exporter of millets? So it is the largest producer but not the largest exporter, because it is the second largest exporter of Sri Anna. Karnataka is not the largest millet producing state in India. It is actually Rajasthan. Alright, so first statement is correct, second statement is not correct, and third statement is also not correct. How many are not correct? 2 only will be the correct answer. Recently, ICSSR has granted 6-month millet project to Jagat Guru Nanak Dev Punjab State Open University, Patiala, and we are observing the International Year of Millets this year only. That is why do expect a question on millets and be updated about it. So, millets is nothing but a collective term that we use to refer to a number of small seeded annual grasses which are cultivated as grain crops to eat them, and it is done on marginal lands. Generally, it can grow well in the tropical and subtropical regions, and dry to temperate areas are good for it. Ragi, which is finger millet, jowar, which is sorghum, some that is little millet, bajra, pearl millet, and variga, proso millet are certain millets that are grown all around the world. India is the largest producer of it. Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, these are the states which pioneer in millet production. Pearl millet, sorghum, finger millet, minor millets we also produce, such as proso millet, kodo millet, little millet, foxtail millet, and the rest. National Food Security Mission also covers it, so that we can ensure that the reach of certain products which are so nutritious in nature. Also, the glycemic index is also appropriate for everybody to consume it. I personally suggest consuming millets, because whenever we are talking about glycemic index, it is advisable to consume millets. So if you can encompass a good amount of millet in your diet, you will start to see changes in your own body. It will become healthier. So do it for sure. Now, India is world's largest producer and second largest exporter of millets. As of the new data of February 2023, we can say that Rajasthan tops the country with this amount of millet production. which is followed by Karnataka and then Uttar Pradesh. Alright, let's move forward. Which of the following state is the location to the largest indigenously developed nuclear plant unit? So, recently, in a boost to ensure that we ramp up our civil nuclear project, we get more energy from nuclear perspective, we have ensured we are going in the right direction. And Gujarat, here we have seen the largest indigenously produced unit of nuclear power plant is situated. So B will be the correct answer. Operationalization has begun. I would like to stress upon the word unit. Okay, so always keep in mind an entire plant can also have different units in the regions that can be from one state to another, because for Kakrapar, we are talking about Kakrapar over here, one unit is also going to be situated in Rajasthan. Okay, so Gujarat will be the correct answer. The third unit of the indigenously developed 700 megawatt electric nuclear power reactor at the Kakrapar Atomic Power Station in Gujarat has commenced operations at full capacity. As you can see over here, we have the Kakrapar. Okay, Kakrapar Atomic Station. Alright, moving on. KAPP3 is the country's first 700 MWE unit. It is the biggest indigenously developed variant of the pressurized heavy water reactor, which consists of natural uranium. It uses natural uranium as fuel and heavy water as moderator. And before this, we had the largest Tarapur unit. Okay, Tarapur, here I will also show you where Tarapur is in this particular map. Earlier it was Tarapur, the plant in Maharashtra, unit in Maharashtra, but now it is in Gujarat. Okay, the Kakrapar one. So the new unit addresses the excess thermal margin. Thermal margin means the maximum operation thermal capacity of the reactor and the actual amount it is using. So the difference between the two, suppose it could be maximum, could be thermal margin. Here we calculate like this. The maximum thermal operation capacity is 100, but we are working at 80. So the 20, difference of 20 will be the margin. 4 units of 700 megawatt reactor are being constructed at Kakrapar and Rawat Bhata site in Rajasthan currently. So as you can see, to ramp up its existing nuclear power capacity by 2031, we are doing it from 7,480 to 22,480. UPSC can also ask us fact-based questions, so remember it, okay? Consider the following statements. China claims over the South China Sea traces its discovery by the Qing dynasty. The NineDash Line map is a V-shaped line which claims the 90% of the South China Sea. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? It is important for us to be well aware of what is happening around us. Recently, China brought out its standard map on August 28 recently. So it showed that Arunachal Pradesh, Ladakh, South China Sea Islands, these all are a part of China. So that is why we are trying to also ensure that not only India is at loggerheads with China when it comes to its territory, but also countries which have claim over the South China Sea, they are not happy with China. So let's talk about the NineDash Line map. NineDash Line map basically is a U-shaped line of comprising of 9 dashes. That is why NineDash Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this concept is very recent in nature. But the Chinese said, no. Since the time of the Han Dynasty discovered the South China Sea. That is why this is ours. Now we could, from the similar perspective, say no, Akhand Bharat consisted of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Tibet, everything is ours. No, because we respect the sanctity of the current modern nations. Modern nation is a very different concept than the earlier existing nations. So we have to understand, the more civilized we became, the more in sync we became. NineDash Line map is, encompassing the blue soil, nationals blue soil, Chinese national blue soil. That means whatever soil is there on their land, but we have a blue soil as well on the South China Sea, and this is what we should be doing, that we should construct our own map to enforce our own narrative. In fact, it must be very intriguing for you to know that it is a modern concept. The NineDash Line is a modern concept. It's not an erstwhile concept. We'll get into that. China currently claims indisputable sovereignty. That means its claim can not be disputed or questioned by any other country which are lying in the South China Sea. How it can be possible? So what happens that the concept develops in a very modern manner. We'll get into that. It is known as country's blue national soil. The origin of it goes back to official maps which were made by the nationalist Kuomintang government. Now, the Kuomintang government, when revolution came, the communists defeated the Kuomintang government and they shifted to Taiwan and they started ruling from Taiwan. So, because it was prepared, the NineDash Line was prepared at the time of the Kuomintang nationalist government, and they defected to Taiwan after defeat. They said no, South China Sea is ours, and that is why there is a dispute over it. And this map was prepared before and after World War II. The NineDash Line was originally an 11-dash line map. Chinese geographer Yang Huaren helped etch it, and he did it just to ensure that South China Sea is of the Kuomintang government. Okay, so in 1947 he worked on the map introducing the 11-dash line and 286 bits of rocks. He even helped the government in naming it, and these were known as the South China Sea Islands. But when the Kuomintang government was defeated and they went to Taiwan, he decided, Yang Huaren decided to stay back in China. But later on he was persecuted during the Cultural Revolution, to be known as the he was known as the Anti-Revolutionary Academic Authority. He was persecuted, but his 9-dash line map lived on. And 1952, the 11-dash line map became 9-dash line. And this was a rare movement of camaraderie. When the Gulf of Tonkin, here is the Gulf of Tonkin, it was given away by Mao, saying that China is not going to claim here, put any sort of claim here. Okay, so remember that Gulf of Tonkin was given away to Vietnam. A very rare moment when China, renounced any sort of claims that it doesn't do generally. Okay, so I hope you understood the 9-dash line map. Consider the following countries: UAE, Bhutan, Singapore, Sri Lanka. How many of the above mentioned countries have adopted the Unified Payment Interface? Okay, recently we saw that UPI broke the record of 10 billion transactions for the month of August. We are going amazingly well. And two things are the most important factor in ensuring that we are doing so great in UPI. First is, of course, the demonetization that was done by the government in 2016. Second, the COVID-19 pandemic. These two have been the biggest reasons when people started relying on digital currencies or digital wallets rather than keeping actual physical wallets. So many countries have started adopting our UPI. This also consists of the countries of Bhutan, of course, we all know that. Recently, UAE also did it, Sri Lanka, France, and Singapore also did it. So all four will be the correct answer. We got a foothold in Europe through our financial technology, and that is France, United Arab Emirates, and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka for India, India is Sri Lanka's biggest trading partner. In order to improve bilateral trade and also have a leverage over Sri Lanka when China is trying to do it, we are ensuring that we are deploying our financial technology, and that is very good. India is doing great here. UPI's growing global footprint is a sign of greater opportunities because more and more investment will come. For 2022, we got an investment of $4.8 billion, and it is expected to be at least $2 trillion by 2030. Just 1 million transactions happened in October 2016, and it has now crossed the landmark of 10 billion transactions for the month of August. UPI accounted for 75% of the retail transactions in 2022-23. Also, cash transactions have declined by 90%. You will see it's amazing to me how a country such as India, which has a population, such a havocking population, but still we have been able to ensure that technology reaches to the end point of the country. Not only the vegetable vendors, fruit vendors, and everything, every other people who may not be literate enough when it comes to digital technology, but still they have it. So this is what this country is capable of. Recently, I also saw one, a viral video that was going on in which a child was begging using QR code. Of course, that is not how technology should be used, but just see what it has brought this country onto. The government must, of course, do something about it, the begging part, because children are not supposed to be doing it. Nobody is supposed to be doing it. Specifically, if I talk about children, they should be getting educated. And that was a really, saddening video for me to see. So cash transactions have declined from 90% of the total volume in 2017 to less than 60% in 2021. And it is expected, the UPI usage is expected to grow by fourfold by 2026. That PwC report has also stated that the UPI may constitute almost 90% of the total transaction volume in retail digital payment over the next 5 years as it expands to different cities and even rural areas. Alright, with respect to the PSLV launch vehicle, consider the following statements. Its first successful launch was in the year 1994. PSLV earned its title the workhorse of ISRO through consistently delivering various satellites into the low Earth orbit, and it also launched the Chandrayaan-1 as well as the Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft. So what do we have to see? How many statements given above is or are correct? Today, we have launched Aditya L1 with the help of PSLVXL rocket. And that is why it is important for us to know about it, because variations are there in PSLV. There are different variants of PSLV. PSLV variant C57 has been used to launch Aditya L1. And PSLV has different variants. That is why it is important to know about them. So its first successful launch was done in the year 1994. PSLV XL, this is the 25th flight that it has taken. XL I'm talking about. Remember, it has variants. So every variant could be on a different timeline. Aditya L1, PSLV, XL, C57. Okay, remember that because it could be a very tricky question for you. PSLV earned its title to be the workhorse of ISRO because it is highly reliable and it delivered various satellites into the lower Earth orbit. First is correct, second is also correct. Although it did launch Chandrayaan-1 but not Chandrayaan-2. It launched Chandrayaan-1 and the Mars Orbiter mission of 2013. So first correct, second correct, third is not correct. 2 only will be the correct answer. Aditya L1 mission to mark 25th flight of PSLV XL variant. So there are different variants as I've already told you. PSLV is the third generation launch vehicle of India and it was also the first Indian launch vehicle which comprises of a liquid stage. In the second stage, it has a liquid stage. First successful launch was in 1994. 2 spacecrafts, Chandrayaan-1 in 2008 and Mars Orbiter mission in 2013 was taken by it. It is known as the workhorse of ISRO because it consistently delivered various satellites into the low Earth orbit, particularly the IRS series of satellites in the geosynchronous, geostationary orbits such as the IRNSS constellations it has made. It is capable of placing multi-payloads at one time. That is why different countries also want India to launch or ISRO to launch their satellites and payloads through the PSLV. Okay, PSLV to the sun synchronous polar orbit, it could be 1750 kg up to, and payload to sub GTO is 1425. So this could also be asked the, now you can say the amount of heaviness this particular launch vehicle can take care of. The rocket that has been used today is the XL variant. Why? Because it has longer strap-on motors carrying higher fuel quantity, because Aditya L1 has to go 4 times distance of that of the distance between the Earth and the Moon. That means whatever distance we covered with the help of the LVM from Earth to Moon, 4 times of that we have to go to the Lagrange one, and that is approximately 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. And the thing is that we will take at least 4 months to reach there, as in 125 days we will take to reach the Lagrange one. Alright, so that is why we need more fuel. Also, the PSLV XL variant was also used to launch AstroSat. Okay, this variant was used to launch AstroSat, which was India's first dedicated space astronomy observatory in September 28, 2015. ISRO has 5 types of PSLV variants. First is standard, then core alone, then XL, DL, QL. What is the major difference between them? Is the use of strap-on boosters, which in turn largely depends on the weight of the satellites to be orbited. The heavier the satellite, the more fuel it is going to need. Okay, moving on. With respect to Atal Pension Yojana, which of the statements is not correct? Okay, because sometimes we get confused about correct and not correct. I've seen that. It was launched in the year 2014. Subscribers would receive guaranteed minimum monthly pension of rupees 1000 or rupees 2000 or rupees 3000 or rupees 4000 or rupees 5000, depending upon the contributions the government and they have done, at the age of 60 years. It is open to bank account holders, all bank account holders in the age group of 18 to 40 years, and it is administered by the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. The correct answer to this question, because we have to select the incorrect one, will be option A itself, because it was launched in the year 2015. Other than this, all are correct. This is a completely fact-based question. So assets under the management of National Pension Scheme and Atal Pension Yojana have crossed 10 trillion or 10 lakh crore rupees. Currently, NPS and APY together have more than 6.62 crore subscribers. Now, the Atal Pension Yojana was launched on 9th of May 2015. A universal social security scheme it is, and it is open to all Indians. It wants to cover specifically the poor and the unprivileged, as well as those particular population which doesn't have social security. API is administered by PFRDA, which is open to the age group of 18 to 40 years. Subscribers would receive the guaranteed minimum monthly pension of 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000 at the age of 60. In case of premature death of the subscriber, that means before the age of 60 years, spouse of the subscriber can continue the contribution to the API account, and for the remaining vesting period till the original subscriber would have attained the age of 60 years. Subscribers can make contribution to it on monthly, quarterly or half-yearly basis. So this also has to be remembered. They can voluntarily exit. There is a exit point also from APY subject to certain conditions. Okay. Now, this is a practice question for you. Recently, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das has been rated A+ in the Global Finance Central Banker Report Cards 2023. Who is the other recipient of the same? So, these are the given options. You have to answer it correctly. Let me take the names of those students who have answered the last question correctly. Okay. So, yes, option D was the correct one. Simran, Riya, Mandeep, Nikhil, Abhijit, Prabhat, Vivek, Komal. If I can't take your name, that means your username is not readable to me. Shantanu, Uttam, Mansi, Nand, Kabilan, Abhishek, Ritu, Siddhant, Mohit, Sanjeev, Himank, Omkar, then Deepak, Vinay. Thank you so much for answering the last question. Answer this question as well so that I can take your names in the upcoming segment. Thank you so much.
StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।